So welcome everyone to the Evolve podcast. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome onto the show today Rebecca Thompson, also known as Bex. I have been following her, like almost secretly stalking her for some time, really enjoying her content, connecting with that, particularly around the spirituality and also the movement in yoga. I love your key areas you focus on. I saw on your website, peace, power, and potential. I think they just sum up beautifully what I see in your content and the work that you do. So, as I said, it's a pleasure and a privilege to welcome you on the show. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Jody, for inviting me. Yeah, it's always great to connect.
It is. And I just think there's so much opportunity for us to connect in our spaces and also share our stories. So I wanted to provide an opportunity for that for you today. But if we could start by you telling our listeners a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, I mean, what I do now is very different to what I used to do. So now I help women to really just do what they love and find that track where they can make the biggest impact. You know, so many women that I come across have this bubbling desire and a yearning to create something bigger in the world. Like they feel they have a mission, but there's all this sort of self-sabotage and fear and doubt that goes on around actually bringing that out in the world. Or women are doing great, but they're getting exhausted, you know, in the process. So that's really kind of my mission, is to help people still have that sense of unwavering peace, have, you know, vibrant health and vitality, and be on track, you know, have their purpose and, you know, make the impact that they were born to make, whether it's just a small impact in their local community or whether it's a global impact. You know, we all have our unique reason to be. So that's the passion of where I'm at, and it's my niche area, I suppose, why people tend to look and kind of go, oh, that's a little different. What you do is really bridging the sacred and the practical. And, you know, you mentioned that to me, Jody, you know, of bringing this spirituality and these amazing, profound sacred tools that are coming to light now more than ever before, and bring them into the world that women can use them in a really tangible way. You know, it's all very well to say I'm spiritual, but what does that mean? You know, when at the end of the day, we want to be happier, we want to have great relationships, we want to feel like we have a purpose, we want to feel peaceful and joyful and have great health and all of that goodness. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's about practical spirituality for me. Yeah.
And I love that, because I feel like you're more advanced on the journey than I was. So my transformation was really about physical, and then being able to connect the mind and the body, and then the mind, body and soul. And then I'm like, oh, beyond my soul is this massive world of spirituality, which has only ever been a religion to me, and a Catholic religion that as a childhood experience is so different now as a mature woman, going, well, what is spirituality to me? What is it to you? How can it do all the juicy things and move me out of head and into heart and all these greater experiences? So I love that niche. I love the work that you're doing. And how we talked about before we even hit record on this show, we got a bit carried away about, you know, how there's an opportunity for us for awakening other humans, and the perfect time, and that we're all here to do similar work. So, you know, that graded effect and the ripple cause, if you can help one woman just find her voice and live her passion, and you know, inspire others. Imagine what that does when it ripples out across all of your clients or your followers, and those that you don't even know that are following you. That was probably me for a while.
Yeah, and the people that come up in the supermarket and go, oh, I've been following you, and you're like, the silent stalkers. Yeah, totally.
Like, yes.
Totally. And I think a lot of us come through our body. I mean, it's interesting because I started life as a physio. So I started, you know, dealing with bodies and dealing with people from that Western scientific model, and helping people in their, obviously, health and vitality on all levels. You know, I worked in every aspect of physio because I was from the UK. So a lot of hospital work and a lot of private work as well. And it was interesting because I would see some transformations on the physical, but then there was those unreasonable ones. Be like, well, why isn't this helping this person like it helped somebody else? And it was that kind of incongruency, and the fact that so many people wanted you to fix them. So I was very keen to empower people, but not just sort of put it on their plate, right? So it's that like walking hand in hand. How do we do this? How do we create that change? And what's going on that's not just the physical? Because otherwise we should be able to diagnose, treat, fix stuff. And, that's what propelled me down. And I had my own physical pain. And that's really what propelled me down the spiritual path, because I couldn't fix it in the physical.
Amazing.
Yeah. Which was frustrating as a physio, not being able to fix myself.
Yeah, but also a blessing, right? Because it's
Absolutely.
wealth of opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And so interesting when you said getting out of your head, because that was the issue for me. It was headaches. So the kind of headaches where literally I was non-functioning. Like I would ring up my husband in tears. He would have to come home, and I had 2 kids under 5. It was that kind of intensity. And literally head pain, right? Too much in the head, which I had to go on that journey of, self-responsibility. And it is not about my environment or anyone else. This is about how I am doing life, how I'm perceiving myself, how I'm responding and reacting emotionally, how I'm choosing to show up in the world. It was all of that. And, I'd had a big seeking aspect to myself my whole life. I'd always felt different and always felt like something was missing. But in that search, I'd put a lot of pressure on myself to be perfect, to find the answers to what is the elixir of life, and it just took a while for me to find that. I had to go through my own surrender journey and, my own transformation. That I think, like anything, right, if we get it handed to us on a plate, we don't appreciate it, we may not even see it. Yes. But when we have to kind of work for it, we have to surrender for it, we have to feel it so deeply, and that yearning to be so great, we kind of get rewarded with, okay, well, here's a little pearl for you, here's a teacher, here's a something to work with.
So true. And so how it almost seems magical how you've gone from the physical body to your own journey into this depth of wisdom. So how do you translate all that into an offering for someone like me? So well, that's amazing, but how could I connect with that? How could we work together? So what are all the different mediums you use?
It took me a while to kind of really work that out. And luckily, because I was working with clients the whole time, like I was still working in my private practice, and then I sort of transitioned and started playing around with things. And so it took me a while to really work out what is it that helped me, and how can I condense that? How can I make that into something that's going to help not just one person, but is going to be applicable to like everyone in different ways? And it really is this interweaving of working with the physical body, because everything's patterns, right? If you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, we are a bunch of patterns. We are a bunch of movement patterns that we've acquired in order to be comfortable, to be safe, and some of them are just habitual as well in terms of our ergonomics and how we show up in our world.
Yes.
And then we have like nervous system patterns, what we have learned to be fearful of, how we have learned to react in order to perceive or to receive love, in order to stay safe, or what we think of as safe. We have patterns mentally on how to be seen in a certain way in the world, how we see ourselves, how we relate to each other and the world, right? So many different mental patterns. But then we also have energetic patterns that most people don't even realize they have, in terms of how we leak energy to connect with others, how we pull our energy in to try and stay safe. And all of these are mechanisms that aren't based in truth. They're just these ways that we try to do things, based on this really interesting human experience. So, it's kind of physically, emotionally, mentally, energetically, spiritually, we are looking at initially creating a sense of ease and safety in the nervous system, in the body, in the mind, in the energy, in the emotion. So it's all around creating a safe foundation and a safe space. And it's hard to describe the actual practices, but we do that with certain physical practices. We do that, with emotional process support, lots of different, mindset stuff. But I find that it's when we bring them all together that we get these like rapid results, because we can't just change the mindset necessarily with the mind, because the mind is perceiving through the mind, right? Yes. So we end up looping. So we need to get back somewhere back, and this is where the spirituality or the presence work comes in, of, well, what is perceiving the mind?
Yes.
Right? And what is the awareness that is aware of itself perceiving the mind? So,
Yes.
right? So when we can start to get into this sort of unchanging state and an awareness of this unchanging state, and we work in the Beacon program with everything from that unchanging state. So whether we're working with mindset or physical body or energy or emotion, we are always connected to that unchanging state, because that's the safe space, because
Yes.
it's unchanging, right? And then we sort of move from there. So once you have safety, then you can start to go, okay, how do I want to use that safety? Am I going to sit here on the couch feeling safe for the rest of my life? Well, it's not in our nature to do that. It's in our nature. We're here to create. So as much as people sort of think, oh, when I create that safe, peaceful state, I'm not going to do anything, it's not true. We actually, safety is the fertile soil for us to get inspiration, right? And to get clear about now what our direction is. So then that next step in the program really is around, how do we move that energy? How do we get clarity, confidence, courage to take safety and like direct it somehow? And again, we use the physical body to create those new patterns. We work in mindset, emotion, and all of that to, you know, look at shadow work. How are we not owning different aspects of ourselves? And then the kind of third stage is, right, how do we now express that? It's all very well now having courage and clarity. How do we move in the world? How do we express in the world? How do we interact with each other and the world in a way that we don't lose our center, in a way that we stay sovereign, in a way that we stay authentic when we start to come into contact with all these other things?
Yes.
Right. And again, we reprogram that in a physical way of dynamic movement, in an emotional way, more shadow work, processing work, all of that, but with that sort of flavor. And all through it, particularly in that stage, because we have a next level in our program, is about how we embody different aspects of the feminine within that.
Yes.
And the sort of balance of that, you know, perfect divine masculine, divine feminine dance within us. So everything is very tailored to how we express that feminine energy and the creative force of the feminine, which is everything that's manifest anyway. Yeah.
It all sounds so powerful. I'm sitting here.
It's pretty big hearing when I say it. It's like, it's a lot.
But every single word resonated with me, and I'm sure it will with our listeners too. And moving beyond, I think there's lots of places where we can go to learn one thing, but it's challenging to find practitioners or mentors that can give us a really holistic understanding of what's happening for us when we want that deep transformation and that lasting transformation, as opposed to the quick fix or the 30-day challenge, which all serve a purpose at a time. But when you are really looking at awakening and consciousness and changing the patterns, I love that idea of yours around that unchanging place. I had not heard that before. Connect with truth and presence all the time, but it's true that that's probably the only place I would know in this whole beautiful universe we have that is unchanging. Yeah.
And there's different places to kind of anchor that presence. So for us, we anchor it in womb space, which, you know, whether you're a man or a woman, you still have that space or sacral area, and it actually is the center of your physical self. So not only is it your literal place of equanimity in your body, it's a place of, you know, real sense of emotional safety and emotional truth. And it's the place from which we hold energy and create from. So it's a beautiful place to sort of anchor presence. Was the first point that we anchor presence on, because it's around safety, right? And coming right into center. And then we build on how we hold that unchanging place, because there are many centers obviously in our body where we can sit with that until we get so good at being able to hold all of it. We get a really good sense of our whole unchanging self, which is pretty vast.
What a beautiful way to live.
And I think that's it. You know, we I've worked hard to kind of create this, but we sort of deliver this in a way that it is a place from which to live. It is not a practice to sit and do on your mat. I mean, there are practices to do, obviously, but it's a place from which to live and an awareness from which to live, so that moment by moment you are responding and referencing, you know, this unchanging state, soul self, higher self, whatever you want to call it, through your day, rather than just being in the reactivity and habitual patterns of your mind and your body and your emotion.
Wow. So if people want to get started with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, well, my website's the easiest place to actually reach out and sort of connect with me. Obviously, Facebook, you know, Bex Thompson on Facebook, and I know you'll put some links in however you're receiving this right now. But bexthompson.com is the easiest way to go on and get a bit more of an in-depth idea about this program, Be a Beacon. And then there's links on my page there to book a chat with me. So that's kind of if you're really like, I need to know more. But I also run half-day events. So they're my kind of intro events where we'll learn some of these like tangible tools, which will make a difference like instantly to how you feel and how you're, you know, perceived. And we generally, at the moment, because of everything that's going on, we are staying pretty much in the Brisbane Sunshine Coast area. And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to start moving a little further afield, but those live events are mostly down there. But, you know, we welcome people in our year program from further afield. There is some in-person action in that, but we can have that chat with each individual. So.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me. I feel like I could talk to you all day and unpick all those
so much
elements,
juice.
but perhaps another time. So thank you so much for lighting up my day and lighting up
thank you, Jody.
Days, whenever they're tuning into this or watching on YouTube. I have no doubt that you'll resonate with many of my followers now and to come in the future. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, my darling. And, you know, thank you as well for being another sister of light up there in Port Douglas and the women that you work with and holding this evolved space for everyone. Yeah, a real blessing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care. God bless everyone. And I'll chat to you on the next show.